Hello. Welcome. I know people are getting settled in, but I just want to welcome you. I am Christy Key. I am one of the pastors here at United Hennepin Methodist Church, and we are honored to be able to host the Beacon Convening of 2026 and to open up our space for this incredibly important work. So thank you for being here. This building has long been a place where neighbors have gathered to wrestle with hard questions, to imagine a more just and compassionate world, and to practice a means of care for one another. And so today, we want to have that spirit with us, but we also just want these walls to hold us as we listen deeply and speak honestly and we learn from one another. So again, thank you for being here and for the work that you bring into this room. I want to, before we begin with the evening, I want to invite us into a moment of reflection and respect, to breathe out some of that tension that we're carrying, and to do that in community because we do not hold it all alone. So let us enter into a moment of silence to honor this land, the Dakota, the Anishinaabe, and other indigenous peoples of this place, the many places Minnesotans have called home, and we also want to name our neighbor, Renee Nicole Macklin Good. So will you join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Just this past weekend, we celebrated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and it is timely. His legacy and his words remind us of our call to remain vigilant in our presence, in our courage, and our care. There's a quote that he said, "There is a fierce urgency of now, that the time to tend what is broken, to shelter what is vulnerable, and to act with love is always in this moment." Let us allow that to sit in our bodies, the fierce urgency of now. May this convening be a place where truth is spoken with humility and stories are honored as sacred, and we share this commitment to the work of justice. Let us bear witness to one another and to the needs before us, to the hope that we are building together. And may what begins here move us from conversation to compassion, from vision to action, and for the good of all. With that being said, let me introduce you to the wonderful Reverend Emily Goldthwaite, who is the Director of Congregational Organizing at Beacon.
Good evening, friends, and thank you, Reverend Christy and Hennepin Avenue United Methodist Church for hosting our annual convening tonight. We are so glad you are part of this collaborative, united in the vision that all people have a home. We have more than 300 people participating tonight from over 50 congregations and organizations present here, both in the room and watching the live stream from Waconia to Matamidi. And if you want to wave at those folks at home, they're right back there. We are people of diverse faiths and shared values who recognize our common responsibility to building a state where that vision can come true. When we say all people have a home, it is not a distant wish. It's a relentless insistence that nobody should be left out of the resources we all need to thrive, resources as foundational as a place to call home. And friends, it matters that we are holding up this vision right now. Because not only have we worked for years within imperfect systems to create affordable and supportive homes and provide shelter, not only have we worked for months to defend federal attacks on the very systems that solve homelessness nationwide, but we are now gathering in a moment where our state is targeted and intimidated by federal immigration enforcement, scapegoating communities blamed for fraud. But we are advocates and providers, neighbors, people with lived experience of homelessness, and we are all together resisting attempts to scapegoat and divide along race, immigration status, class, and politics. We want our social service programs to work the best they possibly can for the benefit of everybody who counts on them. And the answer is never to withdraw support or punish the community. When we say all people have a home, we mean all. Say it with me. All people have a home. Say it again. All people have a home. Tonight, you showed up. We are showing up for each other and building community in solidarity with many people doing their part all over our cities and state. We will share updates on housing development and policy solutions tonight and hear from our special guests about the results of our advocacy and the way forward here in Minnesota. And first, we will fill this sanctuary with songs to inspire us. It's my pleasure to introduce Street Song, who are part of Align Minneapolis, a wonderful partner, led by Liz Digitale Anderson. Welcome, Street Song.
Check, 1, 2. Thank you so much for welcoming us, friends. So Street Song is a choir of folks who have lived experience of being unhoused and people who care about them. We rehearse every Monday after the community meal at Central Lutheran Church. What time do we rehearse now? 12:15? Great. Everybody's welcome. You all should come. This first song that we are going to sing is the words of Amanda Gorman, who you might remember was the poet laureate for President Joe Biden's inauguration in 2020. And she had this amazing poem, and 24 hours later, Leah Morris, who's a beautiful black singer-songwriter from the DC area, had put a song of it on YouTube. And I was like, that was fast. But it's a beautiful song, and it has carried me through a lot of 2020 and the years to come. And so with the words of Amanda Gorman, there's always a light. We'd like to share this one with you. Thank you. The other song we'd like to share with you is actually one we're going to teach to all of you. So this is a song by Josh Blaine, who's a phenomenal Jewish songwriter. And his grandmother of blessed memory survived Auschwitz. And so when he says these words, no one is getting left behind this time. We get there together or we never get there at all. There's a resonance especially right now when we know people are being left behind. We know people are getting left out in the cold, and that's not right. That will never be right. And so the work here today, this song can put a little fire in our bellies to say, that's the world we want. We're going to get there together, or we're never going to get there at all. So I'm going to have Street Song help me teach you all. We're going to sing a line, and you're going to sing it back to us, and then we'll put it all together. Okay, everybody, do a little shake of your bodies, right? We're a body. Yeah, I know, right? Whew, there we go. So the first line goes like, na-na. No one is getting left behind this time. You try it. No one is getting left behind this time. No one is getting left behind. Your turn. No one is getting left. Slide it. Street song. No one is getting left behind this time. Your turn. No one is getting left. Same as the first line. Then we go. We get there together or never get there at all. You try. We get there together or never get there at all. Second line. We get there together or never get there at all. Hangs out in the middle. Get there together or never get there at all. Last line. We get there together or never get there at all. Your turn. We get there together or never get there.
Real quiet all of a sudden. Let's hear it for Street Song again. And to share some reflection on this year, I want to introduce Reverend Lisa Friedman, who is a Beacon board member. Thank you for your leadership and your time and your expertise, Reverend Lisa. And a minister at Unitarian Universalist Church of Minnetonka who's in the house tonight. So take it away, Reverend Lisa.
Good evening. It is nourishing to the soul to be together in community in this time. UCM is a proud member of Beacon, of the Faith Collaborative, because we believe that housing is a basic human right, and that we are called to build power together and to center love and justice in our world. This has been a difficult year of struggle around so many issues that we care deeply about, including the goal of ending homelessness through creating supportive housing and advocating for transformational housing systems change. This whole foundation that we as a collaborative have worked to build over the past 25 years has been under direct attack. The basic values that support dignified housing are under threat due to policies driven by Washington right now. But we have all responded. Our collaborative has never shown up more than in the last 6 months, emailing our federal elected officials, gathering in congressional districts, showing up alongside many coalition partners at our Losing Sleep, Losing Home vigil. This video shares the power of that evening.
You see, I don't sleep well at night for fear that I'm going to turn on the news and find out there isn't any more housing.
We're here today to protect our friends, neighbors, loved ones, and fellow Minnesotans who've overcome homelessness from harmful and reckless federal budget cuts and costly and cruel policies. Last week, HUD announced devastating cuts and rule changes, unprecedented in both their scale and speed, that directly threatened over 170,000 Americans, 3,600 Minnesota households who've overcome homelessness, who are now living in supportive housing. This is really a code red for decades of bipartisan progress on proven solutions to homelessness nationwide.
We are here to launch the Losing Sleep, Losing Homes Vigil, a 12-hour act of solidarity and prayer. The vigil is a visible expression of our call to love our neighbor in the most vulnerable moments in each and every one of our lives. Housing is not just a policy issue, it's a moral issue. No one should lie awake at night wondering if they will lose their home.
The truth is, we know how to end homelessness. What we lack is the moral and political will to do so. That's what this vigil is about. But the most important thing I want to make sure that we don't lose is the human story at the very center of all of this.
My name is Betty Allen. I'd like to share a little bit about my story. Supportive housing doesn't just give a person a roof, it gives them rest. It gives them peace. It gives them a chance to finally breathe. I feel safe enough to heal emotionally, physically, and mentally. I feel human again. We are survivors, but even survivors need support to stay strong. Today, I'm asking you to stand in solidarity with us. Protect supportive housing. Protect the people who depend on it. Because when someone has a home, they have a chance. And everyone deserves that chance.
Every person deserves a home. Housing is not just a policy issue. It's a moral and a spiritual responsibility. Stand with us for a Minnesota where everybody and every person has not just shelter, but they have a home.
Scripture tells us again and again that God's people are accountable for how we treat the most vulnerable. People who stand alongside our neighbors when the systems around them fail. This cut will make it so much harder for families who were finally able to sit down at the dinner table together in their own space with dignity and with pride. It is not too late to stop these changes. Minnesota's leaders can choose to be at the forefront of pushing back on these inhumane new regulations. What we do here now locally matters nationally. With your help, we can turn these policies around.
If you were able to be a part of that vigil or to support it, could you just raise your hands if you're in the house? Thank you. Thank you to all of you. The vigil successfully raised awareness through many news articles and interviews. And while Congress never acted on a solution, the court seemed to be holding off the immediate threats. But we now know the intent of housing and urban development under the Trump administration, that the intent is to dismantle permanent supportive housing. Tonight, we will focus our energy on the path ahead of us here in Minnesota and leave inspired to build that path with our many partners in this work. Before we look ahead to that new year, we must also take time to celebrate all that we have accomplished. We have had success in both creating new supportive housing and passing major legislation. We opened Emerson Village in North Minneapolis and Prairie Point in Shakopee, 82 homes for families. And we are proud to share that rental assistance for 13 families at Prairie Point is provided by vouchers from Bring It Home, Minnesota, in partnership with the Scott County CDA. Bring It Home, Minnesota, the policy beacon led to passage in 2023, has created these new housing vouchers that are being put to work to help people afford their homes, and you were a part of that. We won land use and have begun to assemble the funding for the Aragon in St. Paul. We will soon complete construction on Kimball Court in St. Paul and plan to begin construction on Gladstone Crossing in Maplewood in spring or summer of this year. And that's not all. We continue to work on finding a path for Astor Commons in Richfield after being passed up for state funding this time, and will provide a more full update very soon. Our advocacy to utilize local affordable housing aid, the new resource funded by our Metro sales tax, has provided a vital source of funding to stabilize and support homes like Kimball Court and Great River Landing. And our collaborative led the effort to pass a new program last year to fund services for family supportive housing, a major victory in a very tight budget year. So let's take a moment to applaud this amazing work that you and your communities have made possible this year.
Thank you, Reverend Lisa. So I want to ask you a quick little survey question. If you're in this room or if you're at home, raise your hand if this year, maybe in the last 6 months or so, you wrote an email or postcard to Senator Tina Smith. That's a lot of hands, right? Well, we were excited to announce here tonight the presence of a special guest, which would have been Senator Tina Smith. She really, really wanted to be with us. Sadly, she was not able to at the last moment. Her schedule has shifted, which I think is understandable. And the senator cannot be with us in person, but in a moment, Jack Smythe, her aide, who has been working with us all along, will read a statement that she prepared for us. Jack, you can start making your way forward. I can't see where you are. There you are. Come on up, Jack. We were so excited to have Senator Smith join us tonight, as she has been and continues to be a tremendous champion for housing in Washington, D.C. That deserves a round of applause. When HUD first turned its sights on Minnesota this summer and canceled contracts Beacon was to get from the COC Builds program for 2 new developments, her office responded immediately and was a huge advocate for us. As things escalated and the entire COC program threat emerged, Senator Smith continued to rise to the occasion. During a national advocacy call that a Beacon staff member participated in last month, a national lobbyist said, "We didn't have to keep pushing Senator Smith because she is already so loud on the issue. And we happen to know that she's been reading all of our mail," or Jack probably has been helping read all of that mail. So we learned today that the Senate's version of the housing appropriation bill, known as THUD, contains language ordering HUD to fund COC providers this year. Senator Smith's leadership make that happen. We're so grateful to have such an ally in Washington at this time, and we're thrilled when she first agreed to attend the event. And we understand schedules change. We believe her heart is very much with us here right now. And Senator Smith has an amazing team behind her doing so much. So please still give Jack the same round of applause and energy we would have given to the senator.
Good evening, everyone. It was so amazing to see all your hands shoot up, and thank you so much for your tireless advocacy. And thank you, everyone, for being here on such a cold, cold night. I'm Jack Smythe. I'm Senator Tina Smith's Outreach Director on Housing. As the Reverend said, unfortunately, Senator Smith couldn't be here tonight, and she truly wanted to be here. I'm thankful that Beacon has invited me to say a couple words on her behalf. Thank you to everyone at Beacon Interfaith for your tireless work organizing this event. Thank you to the reverends who shared their words of comfort and wisdom with us. And thank you to Street Song Choir for filling the sanctuary with your beautiful voices. Senator Smith wanted to first start off with acknowledging how our neighbors, specifically communities of color, Asian Americans, tribal members, and anyone speaking out against ICE occupation are being targeted. She is grateful and inspired by Minnesotans peacefully joining together and standing up for what is right and just. Everyone in this room understands that when you don't have a place to call home, it's nearly impossible to take care of yourself, your family. So much more difficult to stay healthy, keep going to work, or pursuing an education. It all becomes that much greater of a challenge. Organizations like Beacon Interfaith are doing incredible work, not just the important work of keeping a roof over someone's head, but the transformational work of advocating for policies that will allow that everyone from here on out has a home. The fundamental problem that we face is that we do not have enough homes and affordable places for people to live. Wages are not keeping up with rent increases, and mortgages are skyrocketing. This forces more people to rely on shelters, their family members or nonprofits to find temporary places to stay. If we don't take action to fix this fundamental problem, working folks won't be able to find a place to live. It's as simple as that. And right now, Donald Trump is actively making the situation worse. By gutting the continuum of care and permanent supportive housing programs, he's throwing out a proven and successful way of combating chronic homelessness. Trump's attempted changes to the continuum of care program would mean that Minnesota could lose federal housing support for more than 3,600 of our neighbors. It could impact nearly 200,000 people nationwide. Imagine that, 200,000 people across the nation. Their lives just coming together now under stable housing, leading to jobs and improved health. Just as they were trying to start to turn a corner, this administration is attempting to stop that progress, saying that we don't want to help you anymore. Senator Smith led her colleagues in pushing back against these destructive changes, and fortunately, courts paused them from taking effect. And we've seen some positive language in the THUD bill. But that's not a guaranteed save, and we know that the attack is relentless and will continue. The fight's not over. Senator Smith is continuing her work to ensure Minnesota has the resources to end homelessness. She's willing to work with anyone who wants to create a more safe, affordable, and stable homes across the country. She introduced a bipartisan bill with Senator Mike Rounds, a Republican from South Dakota, to address some of these issues. The Reducing Homelessness Through Program Reform Act will save time and energy by moving the funding to a 2-year cycle. It will also make the funding more flexible for local providers so that those providers can get people in stable homes faster. With the help of your coalition, including leaders and service providers from across the state, we can continue to make progress. As our communities face attacks from this administration, it's never been more important to stand together and make our voices heard. Thank you for your hard work and tireless advocacy. Together, we'll keep fighting to make sure everyone has a safe place to call home.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Senator Smith. I'm going to hand it over to our CEO and President, Chris Latondras.
Good evening, friends. It's good to be together in community. We're gathered here tonight in a hard but holy moment. Outside the walls of this church, our community is carrying grief, sadness, fear, righteous anger, a sense that something fragile has been broken, maybe even is slipping away from us. Minnesota's been thrust once again into the national spotlight, and not because we chose it. Our neighbor, Renee Nicole Good, is gone. Federal agents patrol our streets, and many in our community have been targeted, terrorized, made unsafe. Folks are tired and exhausted even. I know I've felt that way. And yet, you're here. We are here. We're here with winter coats, with prayers, song, and with resolve. We're here because something deeper than fear is alive in each and every one of us. And that something has been a catalyst for a force that is rare in history. Ordinary people stepping up to protect one another, to lock arms in mutual aid, and to demand better. The eyes of the nation, and dare I say the eyes of history, are on us here in Minnesota. And it is extraordinary to witness how each and every one of you are stepping up to meet this moment. I got a text from a friend today in Chicago who said, "We are so damn proud of you in Minnesota and how you're showing up for our nation right now." I also like to think that you came tonight because you believe in a Minnesota where every person has a home, where every one of our friends, neighbors, and loved ones belong, and that's what tonight is about. And tonight, I want to remind us of an essential truth, as audacious as it sounds. And the truth is this: we know how to end homelessness. What we lack is the political will to adequately fund and scale proven solutions. And that's not mere sentimentality or rose-colored glasses. It's civic courage. It is truth-telling. It is audacious hope. And in these times, no act of courage, truth-telling, or hope is too small. In fact, long before homelessness policy became a culture war battleground, Minnesota leaders have chose evidence over ideology, investing in supportive housing because it works. When you pair stable housing with the right supports, it is the most effective, fiscally responsible way to end homelessness. And that's why, over decades here in Minnesota, across Republican and Democratic administrations, Minnesota has quietly and steadily built one of the strongest, most resilient, innovative, supportive housing systems in the nation.
And together we've proven something revolutionary and simple. Our friends and neighbors overcoming homelessness don't need to be fixed or somehow prove themselves worthy before they're housed. They need to be housed so they can heal, belong, and thrive. That is what supportive housing makes possible. And as such, supportive housing is best understood as the invisible backbone of our national response to homelessness, working together with prevention, shelter, and other strategies. It's part of how right here in Hennepin County, and it's good to see you, Commissioner Conley, right here in Hennepin County, we've moved 9,500 residents from homelessness to housing and reduced unsheltered homelessness by 35% in the past 5 years. We've also functionally ended veterans' homelessness in 86 of 87 Minnesota counties. These are good news stories that look past the dark headlines and tell us a truth that hasn't been told enough. We know how to end homelessness. Supportive housing is fragile. It is chronically underfunded, insufficiently scaled, and therefore imperfect. Nobody pretends this is working perfectly. But it is indispensable, and we will sure miss it when it's gone. That's what tonight is about. And tonight, Minnesota faces a choice. Because everything I've just said is now colliding with a new reality. For the first time in a generation, the federal government is retreating from proven solutions, not expanding them or even reforming them. They are trying to eliminate them entirely in favor of a path of criminalization that is less humane, less effective, and more expensive. We have said, and this is not hyperbole, HUD's actions represent a 5-alarm fire for supportive housing and the fellow Minnesotans it serves, which is to say all of us, because all of us are stronger when all of us are housed and supported. And so as Minnesotans, we have a choice to make. We can wait on Washington, wait on Congress, wait on the courts, while the system we built here in Minnesota unravels around us. Or we can decide together that we will not abandon our friends, neighbors, and loved ones overcoming homelessness. And that if Washington won't lead, Minnesota will. We will build a bridge to the future, one that protects residents, sustains homes, and adequately funds proven solutions. And this is not just about backfilling federal retreat. No, it is about purpose-building the next generation of Minnesota's response to homelessness right here, by us and for us. Very practically, here's what that could look like. And here are a few in-the-weeds, wonky ideas that we'll be talking about in the weeks and months ahead. And some of them are outlined here in this bold policy agenda. Got to get back to my notes here. 3 big ideas. 1, at a state level, it would mean reclaiming and redirecting the Housing Stabilization Services dollars, that's the HSS program, towards what we know works. Proven, cost-effective supportive housing, stewarded by highly accountable, transparent organizations that Minnesotans trust to serve our community. Imagine $65 million, that's the state's share of this program. Dollars that already exist, had already been budgeted for, put towards what Minnesotans expect and deserve. These dollars would more than backfill the federal retreat. That's $45 million. We're talking about $65 million. And allow Minnesota to double down on what's next. And if the legislature acts, we can begin this year. That's what we're advocating for. Second, it means updating the state housing tax credit to fully support supportive housing, expanding eligible uses to not only fund bricks and mortar, but the services and operations that make stability possible. Through your advocacy, we did the same update to LAHA, which I'm about to talk about in a second, and we can do it here too. And third, it means using local affordable housing aid, LAHA. That's the 1/4-cent sales tax that you helped make possible through Bring It Home Minnesota. and putting that to its highest and best purpose, an audacious vision to reimagine the future of our homelessness response. And across the 7-county metro area, LAHA is now generating nearly $200 million a year for local governments. That's real money. Don't let anybody tell you we're living in an environment of scarcity. That is more housing abundance than this state has ever had before. At a moment of federal retreat, these dollars have to flow to our deepest areas of need. And these three ideas are not abstractions. They are beams of a bridge to the future. And so tonight, we're not asking whether that bridge is needed. We're asking, will we build it together? And I believe you're here because you already know the answer. You're here because, in the words of Cornel West, justice is what love looks like in public. And you believe that love must take a public form, that prayer must become policy, and that hope must become action. And in a moment, you're going to hear from some incredible leaders who will help shape what is possible and do so every single day in their roles at the state, county, and at the systems level. But I want you to hear this first. They can't build that bridge without you, and I say that from a place of experience as a former elected official myself. Not without your voice, your calls, and your witness, and not without your insistence that all people have a home is more than a slogan. It is the gold standard for the future that we are building together. And what happens next is up to all of us. And so, to start building that bridge to the future, we have invited 4 incredible systems leaders from the state and county governments to a conversation to learn from their wisdom and insights as we work together towards that common goal. And so I'd like to invite those leaders forward. Kathy Tenbrook, Assistant Commissioner, and a round of applause for these folks as they come up. Kathy Tenbrook, Assistant Commissioner, Minnesota Housing, and the Executive Director for Minnesota's Interagency Council on Homelessness. Renal Ray, Assistant Commissioner, Minnesota Housing, who's in charge of the Supportive Housing Division. Mai Chong Zhang, Ramsey County Commissioner, Chair of Ramsey County's Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Come on up. And my friend and former and always colleague, Commissioner Angela Conley, Hennepin County Commissioner and Chair of Hennepin's Housing and Redevelopment Authority. And to help me moderate this panel, I'm also honored to be joined by Betty Allen, who you saw featured in the video of our vigil. And Betty is a community advocate, part of our Lived Experience Advisory Network, and a MICA board member. Betty, welcome to the front. And Betty, do you want to introduce yourself and say why you're here as I come down?
Thank you.
Is it working? Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why you're here tonight, Betty?
Okay, thank you. I'm honored to be here. My name is Betty Allen, as you may have noticed me on the big screen. And I'm here to help to ensure that people like me who live in supportive housing are not just a number or data, but real people. I'm honored to be here and help with asking questions. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. So I'll start with a question for all 4 of our panelists. Minnesota has a proud history, as we talked about, of advancing bold and innovative strategies for solutions to homelessness, including a strong emphasis on going all in on supportive housing. What does this history of our state tell us about our shared values that could shape our path forward? And we'll start with Assistant Commissioner Tenbrook, and you can pass the mic across and down. Go ahead.
Okay.
You might need to flip it on there. It's
on. Can you hear me? Oh, hello. Well, first of all, let me just start by thanking you, Chris, and everyone for inviting me to be a part of this amazing panel of people I admire very much. And I also have to say, Renal and I were talking when we first arrived that to be in this room right now with all of you feels healing and amazing, and I'm just so grateful to be here with all of you, so thank you for showing up tonight. So the work of the state, just really quickly, the Interagency Council on Homelessness is a subcabinet of the governor and lieutenant governor, and it has 15 state agencies that work together on homelessness. And we're responsible for a few things. One is to create a state plan that's focused on housing, health, and racial justice for people facing homelessness, and that plan was built with people with lived expertise as paid consultants working with the state, and is now being implemented with 14 implementation consultants with lived expertise working with all of our state agencies, and it's just been so inspiring. But the other thing we do is work a lot with community partners like all of you and partners all across the state, and just the gratitude that I have for everybody who's been stepping up in this moment is huge. So I don't think I can speak for everyone in the room, although I'm guessing this is true for all of you, but I am so proud to be a Minnesotan right now, especially right now. And I think that the history we've shared and how we've showed up is shown in how we are investing in this work. Here at the state, at the county, at the city, all across the state, people are investing in what we know works, and we're showing up for each other. We're caring for each other. And when I talk to my colleagues all across the country, they are just in awe of Minnesota. I would think of the email you got. I get those all the time, and not just about this moment, but for all the moments before, where providers here are astounding. The partners who do this work every day are astounding. The foundations who show up and help fund are astounding. The local jurisdictional partners are astounding. And people with lived expertise who have been guiding this work not only at the state, but at city and counties all across the state. And more, their voices are at the center of the work we are doing is astounding. So I'm just really, really grateful for all of that. Values are only, values unless they show up in budgets and policies and plans. And that is exactly what has been happening in Minnesota, and that's in large part to the values we all share as Minnesotans, but the values that you all share and what you're demanding. And so thank you for all your work.
Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to be with you. As I was thinking about this question and the shared values that are showing up, I was realizing that many of the shared values that have been showing up in the last 2 weeks here in Minnesota are the same ones that I see in supportive housing. They're a commitment to community responsibility, to pragmatism, and to dignity. When I say community responsibility, what I mean is that we don't leave people behind, or as Street Song led us, we get there together or we never get there at all, right? We don't leave people behind. We believe that everybody deserves a home, and that's what we've been trying to build towards in Minnesota for the last several decades that we've been investing in supportive housing. And at the same time, dignity and housing first, as Chris talked to earlier, is a core value. We don't think that there needs to be a condition met or a step taken before somebody deserves a home. They get a home because they are people, not because they have done something to deserve that home. We see that play out in supportive housing programs all across the state, and it is something that's been a commitment and a value that we all have in supportive housing. And the last thing, so I'm not from Minnesota, I grew up in the Chicago area. In these last few weeks, I have been questioning, I think I'm a Minnesotan now. Can I say that? If I've lived through these things, am I a Minnesotan now? One of the things that I've realized about Minnesotans is that we're really pragmatic people. You want to invest in what works, and you want to do the right thing. And you also want to know that what we're doing works and that it is worth the cost of it. And supportive housing is an extremely cost-effective model and way to bring about affordable housing. We know that when we invest in supportive housing, we save, we reduce healthcare costs for the people. We shift where costs are ending up across our system. So we're not spending money on jails and in emergency rooms. We're spending money so that people can have home, can be on their path to recovery, to healing, and to engaging and benefiting all of us in our community. So those are some of the shared values that I see in supportive housing and how Minnesota is invested in it.
And we will gladly claim you as a Minnesotan, Commissioner Ray.
Yes. Welcome.
Hello and good evening. Thank you all so much for the privilege and honor of being here with you all. It is definitely very healing to be with you here. I'm Ramsey County Commissioner Mai Chong Zhang. I have the honor of representing the east side of St. Paul, serving the Ramsey County Board, as well as serving as our HRA chair for the last 3 years. Not many of you may know, but Ramsey County was the last county in our state to levy for our housing. So I came in after the hard work of our leaders on the county board who were able to get permission from our cities to even have an HRA levy. So I came in and was able to approve some of our first allocation of affordable housing dollars. And this is new territory for Ramsey County. But I've been so proud of, just the amount of engagement that our staff have with listening to our partners, to our communities, and also creating our economic competitive inclusion plan that calls out the need for these types of affordable housing, but the housing continuum, and where we see the intersections of housing stability and support is right in the center of where market rate housing is, as well as where eviction prevention is. Those are the two continuum that we have. So I just imagine that our path forward is to continue and to continue to hold on to these Minnesotan values. I was born and raised here in Minnesota. My parents are refugees, and Minnesota delivered for us. We are a product, or the Hmong community is a product of the love and investment that our Minnesota neighbors believed in, that people from war-torn countries can really thrive when they are invested in. And so that is something that I want us to remind us to hold on to very deeply, and that our voting turnout is always great, and that's because we are engaged. So do not fight the pessimism, fight the pessimism, and do not let apathy or despair get in the way. So I just have to say that what we're doing just brings me so much hope and, again, deeply healing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that just makes me all warm inside. Good evening, everyone. It's so good to see you. I feel so good in this space. This is healing. It really is healing. So I'm Angela Conley. I represent the south side of Minneapolis on the Hennepin County Board of Commissioners. South side? Okay. I just got to make sure. All right. And I also represent parts of downtown, southeast Minneapolis, and Fort Snelling. And let me tell you about Minnesotans. We are a hardy bunch of people. Yes. We brave 30 below zero to be outside protesting against injustice. We walk our dogs in the middle of January. We tiptoe out to the garbage so we don't slip on the ice in the middle of February when it's 25 below, actual air temperature. We are a hardy bunch. We dig each other out of the snow when we get stuck. Neighbors that you never even met will come and help you push your car out of a snowbank. We are a hardy bunch who care and love our neighbors. We've always been that way. I'm born and raised here. I've seen it all my life, how Minnesotans stand up against moral injustice, how Minnesotans just stand up for each other. So what I've seen in the housing space in how Minnesotans show up for each other is that we have declared no one deserves to be without the fundamental human right of housing. No one deserves. No one deserves to be outside right now, tonight, in a tent, but there are people outside right now in a tent. No one deserves to live the last moments of their lives outside or on a train or in someone's apartment building hallway. But we know these are realities, so we know we keep fighting. And what I've seen over the last few weeks in Minnesota is we are fighters.
Yes.
Not only are we hardy, not only are we pushing our neighbors out in 30 below zero, but we are fighters.
Yes.
We put on our boxing gloves and we say, no way, not on our watch. And I love that about us. I love that about us. That is what it's shown me, is that when we declare that no one deserves to go without housing, we put the dollars where it needs to go, and we have policymakers. So I chair the Hennepin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. I also chair Hennepin County's Health Committee, and there's intersections there, right? Because housing is healthcare. Housing is many things, but it is first and foremost healthcare. Because how am I healthy if I don't have a stable place to live? Exactly. So we have declared that we will fund this new LAHA funding was amazing and incredible for our local jurisdictions, but we made that, the legislature did that to bring home the point that we care about housing, we care about our neighbors, and we will continue to be fighters for the good fight of housing for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Our next question is, we're at a crossroads, and we're watching the federal government shift investments away from proven solutions to homelessness. How do you imagine that we can build a bridge to the future in which Minnesota housing systems, including supportive housing, are stabilized? This time we'll start with you, Commissioner Conley.
Thank you. That is an incredible question because we are under attack by the federal government, who has said that what we know is proven to work here in Minnesota, what works to keep people housed, we know that a housing-first approach is what works. When you stabilize people through housing, that's what brings on employment, good health, both physical, spiritual, mental health. Everything improves when you have stable housing. So we know that when we get people into stable housing, they're better off. The federal government has said, no, that's not really what we want to do, right? So I know that through Hennepin County, through the state, I gave an analogy, and through our partners, I gave an analogy about that car stuck in the snow and how Minnesotans, being the hardy folks that we are, we're crock pot eaters this time of year. We're hardy meat and potatoes folks. We'll go out and we'll push that car. So the car right now is housing, right? And so you and all of your neighbors are out there pushing this car out. Well, one of those neighbors is the state. One of those neighbors is your county. One of those neighbors is Beacon. One of those neighbors is another partner. One of those neighbors is you, all pushing to move the goal that we know is what we want to see. So when we talk about, all politics being local, we have to hyper-focus, put our heads down, work together to move this mountain. And it really isn't a mountain because, as we've heard tonight, housing first, stabilized housing, housing with support, supportive housing, is a model that works. We've seen it over and over and over again. We ended veterans' homelessness because it works, right? So when you know something works, when you don't listen to the naysayers, you don't listen to an administration that's telling you no. We know what our eyes show us. We know what our ears tell us, and we've heard from people with lived experience. I myself experienced housing insecurity many, many years ago. It wasn't fun. It wasn't uplifting. So I do this work with heart and compassion, and I know that my partners do this work with heart and compassion too. So when you do something with heart and compassion, it's bound to work, right? I can't tell you that what the federal government is doing is with heart and compassion, but I can tell you what we're doing in the state of Minnesota is with heart and compassion. And so that's what I rely on. That's what I know that I'm going to continue to do, is look locally for my partners, for my neighbors in this work, to continue the funding that we need, to continue advocating for the funding that we need, to continue building it, to continue supplying our partners with the funding they need to build it and to operate it. That's what we're just going to keep doing, right? We're going to fight for the funding that we need, and if the federal government says no, well, then we'll look to our partners and keep on moving. I am dedicated to that. I can't tell you how upset this could make me, but I am so optimistic and feel good about my neighbors and pushing that car out, then I'm just going to keep on going.
Thank you.
I love that energy, Commissioner Conley. I really appreciate it. I think for Ramsey County, we are thinking about the intersection of our current present reality, the unfunded mandates, and just the safety net that has been torn and decimated from the federal government. And about just the great need that there will be. I've been using this number for the last 3 years now, but we know that affordability really means that the number is 15,000 units of deeply affordable housing that Ramsey County needs. And that number just seems, that goalpost just seems farther and farther away because we know that, cost of living or wages that have been stagnant. And then on top of that, our local governments are being asked to help fill in these gaps too. And then on top of that, it's also we don't have any other sources because the federal government isn't helping. So we go and ask our taxpayers for this, and we know that that's also one of the most regressive form of taxation. So that is definitely something that I struggle with, or that a lot of our local government leaders struggle with from both the county and the city, because we're the ones who hear about the property taxes. So what I'm hopeful about is, and what I would like to see is also the support from the ground, because if the state is not going to be able to fund where we need it for this, we will have to ask our property taxpayers. And so those are really hard questions to wrestle with, and that I know that we have leaders at our state who are committed. And one of the promising pieces that Chris, you had mentioned about asking at the state is about pairing capital investments along with services. And I think that would be the most crucial piece for us and a great path forward for us to say and prioritize that this is the greatest and best need of our public dollars, so that we can fully help support and stabilize our communities.
So I just want to say, I think the bridge to a bigger, bolder, more sustainable housing system in this state is all of you in this room, all of you listening online, and the voices of many, many people who are also not here demanding that that is what we need in this country and in this state. And I'm so impressed with what you've done, and the words of Senator Smith via Jack, that the THUD bill, that the language that came out from the Senate that included some very promising news for COC funding, that is not a guarantee, and that's got a long road before it becomes the reality of what our continuums of care and communities see. And so your voices are going to be more important than ever. And we have to keep telling the story of what we know works. And as Chris said so well, housing works with services. Criminalization does not work. We also have to tell the story of what does not work. And the federal government is trying to tell a different story and to change the narrative. And we have to be louder than that. I'm going to date myself, but 33 years ago, I started working at St. Stephen's Homeless Shelter. That's where I started my journey in this work. And, of course, we're all talking about with our very own eyes how we can see what is working now. I can also tell you that I saw with my very own eyes what wasn't working 33 years ago, which was telling people that they had to remain homeless until they had checked all these boxes, that they had saved up enough money, that they had started these medications, that they had gotten sober, and I was a part of that. All of us were in that time, because you worked at a shelter that there were rules and regulations, and the only way to serve people is if they did certain things. That did not work. And we had people languishing on the streets and in shelters for many, many years because of that failed way of doing our work. Over these years, we have evolved as a community and as a nation, and the very last thing we need right now is to go back 3 decades in progress. And so I say that to say, you know, there are so many stories to tell. People with lived expertise in particular have just such powerful stories, but people who are working every day with folks in every corner of the state, can't remember all the places you said people are tonight listening to this, but please talk to your elected officials in every jurisdiction in the state and at the federal level to tell the true story of what works.
So if HUD moves forward with what they're proposing for Minnesota, that would be around a $50 million impact. So much of that money goes to permanent supportive housing, and there is no one source of funding that can fill that gap. So what Kathy is sharing around the promising news today of the language in the THUD bill is really important, and I just want to say again, you all have a role in that, and Congress still has the ability to act and move forward and tell HUD to renew contracts. We also know that there's litigation moving forward. Minnesota Housing was able to work with our Attorney General's office to help inform some of the impacts of what could happen if HUD moves forward. And we know that the National Alliance to End Homelessness and the AGs are kind of running their lawsuits parallel. So there's hope there to prevent some of the changes and impacts that we would see if that goes through. My point is, before bridge, we need to preserve and maintain what we have. And I feel like we're in this moment where we are fighting to try to do that. And in that fight, we're working with one another, talking to each other, trying to understand what the impacts are, where they would be felt most acutely, and then elevating and telling those stories of impact as well. And then we also have to be doing some contingency planning. So we know that there's funders who are coming together to try to see what they can do to release funding to support some early gap coverage. And I'll share that at Minnesota Housing in 2023, we received an appropriation for a program called Strengthen the Supportive Housing Model. And those dollars were meant to be for the long-term evolution and transformation of supportive housing, to change the financial model so that we don't have to fight for every dollar that we get, right? And we know that in order for us to preserve what we have, we need to use some of those dollars. And so right now, Minnesota Housing is planning to release up to $6 million. That's not a lot of money to support and try to buy some time for supportive housing providers so that they can make plans and help continue moving forward until we can figure out how to advocate and change the national conversation and really return to what works at a federal level. So that's something that we're going to try to do in the coming months here. I think to the question around what's the bridge. So I think, one more thing. We also have to look at other programs. So as we've been talking with supportive housing providers and HUD grantees, we know that they're looking at housing support. They're looking at the Bring It Home vouchers that Beacon helped advance a few years ago. And this is where, one of the values we have is that we're scrappy and we're resourceful. And that's a little bit of like how supportive housing came up. We bridged sources of funding to get capital dollars, to get operating dollars, to cobble together service dollars. And what we need is an evolution and a transformation in the financial model, and we will work together to try to do that. I went over my time.
All right. We're going to, in the interest of time, combine this next block of questions. And there's one question for our state officials and one question for our county officials, and treat it sort of as a rapid fire round. But for our state officials, and you'll have a little time to think about this while I ask the county question. We are at a point where we need to reimagine state-level resources to build a more resilient funding system for our housing and homelessness response. Yet we're doing so in a climate of heightened scrutiny due to the real fraud that has occurred. So how is the state working to grow these resources while also rebuilding trust and accountability in Minnesota's funding of social services? So reflect on that question. We'll do a rapid fire round. And then for our county officials, local affordable housing aid is a hot topic. These dollars are the largest dedicated ongoing source of housing funds in the metro. We're grateful to both Hennepin and Ramsey counties for using these dollars to really important and great effect to help stabilize the supportive housing industry in 2025. How do you envision these funds playing a role in light of the federal retreat from proven solutions to homelessness? So we'll start with our state officials and move down to our county officials reflecting on these respective areas of policy.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. So I'll just start and then turn it over to Renal. I mean, fraud is a real issue and incredibly harmful. And I can say with all certainty that everyone at the state of Minnesota is working really hard right now to combat fraud, and it is being politicized in our state right now to harm our neighbors. And both of those things are true. I think what we need to kind of rebuild trust and integrity in some of the programs is to work with so many of the providers that have incredible integrity, who have been running these programs with that integrity, who know a lot about what works, where some of the challenges have been, and to have them help rebuild the programs and design them to make sure that they have both integrity and kind of those safeguards, as well as are even more effective at serving our neighbors. In terms of resources, we have certainly been working hard with community partners all across the state to do a lot of analysis right now on what we're seeing from the federal government, frankly, not just around the HUD COC dollars, but the cuts to SNAP and Medicaid. And think about, homelessness is a symptom of multiple system failures, and we cannot afford to lose food assistance and child care and health care for our folks if we want to eliminate homelessness. So these are all interconnected issues. So doing a lot of analysis and trying to figure out where within state government we can make some moves. So Renal, do you want to take it from there?
I'll share a little bit more about Minnesota Housing in particular. So we want our partners to be effective. We want them to be doing the work that they signed up to do, because that means that Minnesotans benefit and program dollars go to where they need to go. So at Minnesota Housing, we really feel fortunate because we have strength in our partnerships. We are building capacity with new entrants to the work who can provide services and support in different ways. We try to be clear in our expectations and provide support along the way. There are things that we have to do as a result of legislation around pre-award risk assessments and monitoring requirements, and we're doing everything that we can do to make sure we're following the rules, to make sure that the Minnesotans who deserve the resources that are coming their way actually get them. So that's, I think, what I would add. And then to just pivot a little bit, we also need to increase resources for supportive housing. So this is where transparent communication comes in. We are working with the governor's office and have briefed the housing chairs in the legislature on what's going on right now and what that means for supportive housing and homes that people are counting on. We know that our partners are engaged in a ton of advocacy, and that you all are sharing both data and stories and what this means in neighborhoods across the state.
And can I just add one quick last thing? I think we have 30 seconds. That this, once again, dating myself, but over these 3 decades of doing this work, I have never seen an administration that centered housing stability and homelessness more directly than this one, and I've worked for multiple. And it's because over time this movement has grown. You have grown, the voices have grown. You have sort of made this, kind of to your point, Chris, about community will builds political will. We have built an enormous amount of political will in this state, thanks to you all and many others. And so thank you for that.
All right, moving on to our county officials. Y'all get half of those LAHA funds. What's your vision for using them for this bridge to the future?
I can start. At Ramsey County, we previously had a support and stabilize for our supportive housing partners, where we invested about $5 million into that program out of our LAHA funds. And that was in response to just COVID, right? Where a lot of our housing providers were really just seeing increases in both security, the maintenance, some deferred maintenance, but also just not being able to get the rent. And so this is a really hard time for a lot of our supportive housing partners. I would imagine that as we think through this and as we navigate, this Metro Surge, Operation Metro Surge, that we will be focused on this continuum of both eviction prevention and also investing in our supportive housing infrastructure, especially as, the attack on supportive housing gets, disseminated from our federal partners. So those are very important because we know that we need to maintain the current housing stock that we have, maintain and preserve the affordable housing stock that we have, and that to not invest in it would mean that we will start unraveling the network of just the fabric of our community that has kept us strong.
That's real. That's real. LAHA funds really were this brilliant move by the legislature to make sure that we could have a dedicated revenue stream for housing. And so as we at Hennepin County have been doing is, I'm looking at the pie chart in my head and I see rental assistance, I see capital, I see supportive housing. And what I've also been hearing from providers is that they have aging infrastructure. They need assistance with, keeping the leaky roof from continuing to leak, and they need a new boiler, things like that. And so I want to think about the future of reimagining how we're able to use these funds. I will say being able to use them for things like emergency rental assistance keeps people in their housing. We have also at Hennepin County, established the Supportive Housing Incentive Fund, right? So when I first joined the board in 2019, when I was first elected, I remember we were still debating the use of this supportive housing fund because no one could agree on what was eligible or who was eligible for supportive housing. So it's like we're waiting to see who are the priority populations of people we need to get housed. That's easy. So I worked with another commissioner. We came up with the guidelines, who's eligible, and then the next board cycle, we approved the Supportive Housing Incentive Fund. So it's having the funds available within the county in addition to the LAHA funds that are really going to help us fight back against what we're not going to get from the federal government. It gives us the flexibility to do more. So keeping people in their housing through emergency rental assistance, through capital, right, to build more supportive housing, to build more infrastructure for people to be housed that's not 80% of the AMI that a lot of people cannot afford. But we're going to need to be flexible. We're going to need to be nimble, and we're going to need to find ways to expand. I am a big fan of looking at new forms of revenue. I think that you're right. We can't just property tax people out of their houses. Then that creates more of a pipeline into our supportive housing in the first place. At Hennepin County, since 2019, we've spent over $200 million on our housing continuum. And the housing continuum really is everything from people living outside to homeownership. That's a lot of investment. LAHA has only helped with that. And so we're going to need to look to the future where we are being flexible with those dollars, looking at new ways that we can use it, working with the legislature for permission to use it in new ways. And I'm even a fan of expanding it. Can we use more? Can we get more? It's a small, maybe a half a cent more, could do wonders for our counties. Thank you.
You're here.
Thank you all. Okay. Thank you all. Our last question for all of you, and please feel free to be brief in your answers. Will you work with us to build the bridge to the future where Minnesota protects, preserves, and transforms our supportive housing systems?
Absolutely, we are going to push that car out of the snow together. We are going to stay partners. We've been great partners, and I love partnerships. That's what works. That's what keeps us going, yes, resoundingly.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, yes. And in fact, you are critical to us making any progress. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. All right.
I was going to be that brief, but I actually really want to say this too. I just wanted to say that, of course, movements are sometimes just painfully slow in seeing progress, but I just firmly believe with every cell of my body, otherwise I wouldn't keep doing this over and over again, that there is going to be a moment where this cup just overflows and we never go back to a place where we have an underfunded system that can't bring everybody home.
Yes, hurrah.
Well, actually, yes, of course.
Thank you.
Actually, we can't build the bridge to the future without you and without all of us working together to figure out how to get there.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you all.
ladies.
Well, thank you.
all.
And we look forward to partnering with all of you, all of those Minnesotans, both individual and government, pushing that car, Commissioner Conley, and we really appreciate your thoughtful answers. A round of applause for our panelists, both for tonight and for their leadership. And let's give Betty a huge round of applause for her advocacy in our community. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you, thank you.
We have heard a powerful yes from our panelists tonight. And now it's our turn. Will we work together to build the bridge to the future where Minnesota protects, preserves, and transforms our supportive housing system? Well, how are we going to do that this year? Well, on that handout that Chris walked you through and the slides, you'll find that overview of our plan for the legislative session. Those policy highlights: reclaim housing stabilization services funds, expand the state housing tax credit, passing our Future Starts with Home to get more revenue for housing. And in our counties and cities, as we heard tonight, we'll build a vision for local resources that sustain and grow our solutions to homelessness through local affordable housing aid. You are invited to register for some upcoming events now and plan to bring a great group with you tonight. Many of you did that, or bring a great group with you like you did tonight. Many of you brought friends with you tonight. Is anybody here at a Beacon event for the first time today because someone invited you? Yes, that's amazing. So as a next step, you can come to our monthly Rent is Due calls where you can get a policy update and an action that you can do right away and share with others. You can come to the Start with Home rally in the Capitol Rotunda on February 23rd. And we are excited to announce tonight a new collaboration. For the first time ever, we will be combining our Beacon Lobby Day with Homeless Day on the Hill, organized by Minnesota Coalition for the Homeless. So if you already saved a different date for Beacon Lobby Day, notice the new date, March 11th, and it's all up to date on our website now. And that is just the beginning, because we continue these relationships over time with those who represent us. So our staff will be in touch about further relationship building and advocacy opportunities with state and local electeds. Congregation members and clergy and community members not affiliated with faith communities are welcome to all of these kinds of events, and it does take all of us. Christy.
Again, I am Christy Key. I'm one of the pastors here at Hennepin Avenue United Methodist Church, and we just wanted to share why we are a part of the collaborative that is Beacon. A few years ago, there was a beloved camp of this church that has been a part of this church for many, many, many years. And it it was decided by the church to sell the property. And so there were some proceeds left over from the sale of that beloved camp. And collectively, Hennepin Avenue United Methodist Church decided they wanted to donate the proceeds of the sale of that camp to Beacon. They wanted to partner with Beacon in the fight against for racial justice and also for supportive housing because it is transformative, because it works. So our church was able to contribute to the building of Bimoseda and of Emerson Village. And this is something that they are proud of. We are still proud of, and we continue to support. Also, it takes this collective work to activate the kind of power that we saw in this room. It takes community and generosity, not just of individuals, but of congregations. So we are proud. We are proud to be a part of that collaborative. Last year, Beacon congregations contributed over $300,000 for this work. That is pretty amazing, right? And half the people in this room have already made a personal gift to Beacon. We have an incredibly dedicated group of people to this cause. So our ask today is to align your generosity in this moment. If your congregation can give more, 10% more, 15% more, 50% more than you did last year, now is the time. There is so much work to be done. If you haven't ever given to Beacon, this is no better time. You've seen the power of this organization. And imagine if just everyone in this room gave a gift of $50. How much of an impact that would have. That builds power to meet this moment. So you can also give or contribute in-kind gifts. There are many ways you can give time and support to the residents and service providers, like winter gear we collected tonight. There's always ways that you can give. So if giving monetarily is not an avenue that is open for you, please reach out to see how you can partner with us. This year, 50 congregations participated in supply drives for homes like Emerson Village and Prairie Point. This is an amazing community. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you to everyone who has made a gift to this work that we are so blessed to do together, and to everybody who came tonight, and to the more than 70 people who are with us from wherever they may be watching the live stream. If you would like to get your congregation involved in Beacon or join this collaborative in any of the ways we talked about tonight, I'd love to visit with you. We will be closing in a moment, as we began, with a song led by cantor Tamar Havilio of Bet Shalom Congregation in Minnetonka. And as Tamar comes forward, I want to remind us that we, on your way out, if anybody would like to have their parking validated, we actually have some coupons, and we are so thankful to everybody who drove tonight and brought others. So we've got some ways to cover your parking. After our song, we will go and spread this joy and support in our communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Emily for being such a courageous leader, and for all of you, and for Street Song, who started this beautiful, beautiful song. So in this week's Torah portion, our Torah cycle, we are in Parshat Bo. Bo means come. Let's all say it. Bo. Bo. So it says Bo because God says to Moses, Bo le Paro, come to Pharaoh. Even though I have hardened Pharaoh's heart, come to Pharaoh and let my Let my people go. So circle chant is a song for freedom. So just follow, it's very catchy. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace.